Good afternoon, grade 12 learners, and welcome to today's accounting lesson. My name is Mr. Simbi, and this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. Today's class is very important because remember the days are upon us. Next week, Friday, we're going to be writing our paper one, and I want to remind you that next week on Thursday, I'm going to be here exactly at 2 p.m. and we're going to do revision for paper one. All right. So make sure next week, Thursday, at this very same time, we meet in this very same class and then we'll do preparation for Friday's paper one. What am I going to be doing today? In the previous week, we started off with cost accounting. That is what we started in the previous week. And I promised that this week I'm going to come back again with more activities on cost accounting. So my objectives for today's lesson is I'm going to touch again on concepts, and then I'm going to do a production cost statement. In today's class, I will not do the abridged statement of comprehensive income because I've done that in the previous week. So if you have a challenge with the abridged statement of comprehensive income, I would encourage you to visit last week's class and then you get assistance from there. I will do break-even calculation together with some analysis. I will also answer some problem-solving questions in today's class. All right, let's jump straight on to the concepts, okay? In the concepts, the first concept that we're going to talk about is what is manufacturing. So, manufacturing is the transformation of raw materials into finished or completed products that will be available for sale or consumption. So when we talk about manufacturing, this is where we convert our raw materials, we transform our raw materials into a state whereby we now have completed or finished products that can be ready for sale. The manufacturing process is divided into three departments. So when you talk about the manufacturing process, we know that it will be split into three departments. That is your factory, your administration, and your selling and distribution. Now, to shed more light on this, here is the factory. In the factory, this is where raw materials are processed to produce finished goods. So in the factory, we process our raw materials so that we produce finished goods. In this case, we'll be referring to the shoe manufacturing factory. The next one is the administration. This is where office duties are performed. Here, office duties are performed. All right. They will oversee all the daily operations, and it includes financing, budgeting, as well as your planning. That is the administration department. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the selling and distribution. This department is responsible for the advertising, the selling, as well as the delivery of the finished goods to customers. That is our selling and distribution department. All right. Now that you understand this concept, remember I covered this concept in last week's class as well. We're going to jump straight into the first activity, which is the NSC November for the year 2023. If you're ready, let us begin. So make sure that you do have this worksheet. This worksheet has been shared. Your teacher must be having this worksheet. So what you must do is to speak to your teacher and remind them to give you this worksheet. That is if you do not have it already. But I trust that most of you have this worksheet up and you have it on your desk, and we are going to work on it right about now. All right. Activity number 1. So this refers to feet manufacturers. The business is owned by Mark Feet, and they manufacture t-shirts. The financial year ended on 28 February in 2023 required we should calculate the direct material cost, and we should also calculate the factory overhead cost for the year by completing the answer book. So we're going to do that together. And we're going to calculate the cost of wastage of raw materials, and then we're going to also give strategies to Mark, who's concerned about the increase in the cost of raw materials. So we're going to do all of this. So make sure as I'm teaching in today's class, you have somewhere to write. Make sure you have a pen, you have a paper where you can be writing so that today's class can benefit you. All right. This is more information which relates again to our activity number 1. More information. And then here's the first question. So the first question then reads, calculate the direct material cost. Calculate the direct material cost. There are 2 ways that I'm going to show you today on how to calculate the direct material cost. So remember, you will not use both methods in the exam. You will practice and then you see which of the 2 methods can work for you. Are you still with me? All right. So I'm going to show you 2 ways on how to calculate your direct material cost. To begin with, it is easy because I am told that the fabric is issued from the storeroom to the factory for production. Number 2, the weighted average method. By now you know this method because yes, we did it in the previous weeks. Remember in the weeks when I was doing inventory valuation, you're very correct. So we have done inventory valuation. Do you still remember the methods to inventory valuation? All right, which ones are they? It is your FIFO. All right, someone saying FIFO. Yes, it is your FIFO. What is number 2? Your weighted average. What is number 3? Your specific identification. These are your 3 inventory valuation methods. And I know you have done these ones. Now, in this question, they're telling us that our raw materials use the weighted average method. You have to understand that our inventory valuation methods are not only limited to the inventory valuation question. As you can see here, your inventory valuation question is included in our cost accounting. You can as well see it in paper 1 when you do your statement of comprehensive income. All right. So you can never say, all right, I'm going to limit my inventory valuation questions only to paper 2. No, even as you do your paper 1 preparation, you must expose yourself to questions whereby you can be tested on the inventory valuation methods, even when you do the statement of comprehensive income. So here we are told that the weighted average method is used to determine the value of the fabric. And then 1.2 meters of fabric is required to make 1 t-shirt. Very important, eh? Very important. The following information was extracted. So I know if I am to calculate my value or the direct material cost, I will say my opening stock. So this is my opening stock. This one here. That's my opening stock. So I'll say opening stock plus purchases. And I know it gives me the goods available for use. So that means I can start here now. I can start here, which is my goods available for use. And then I must subtract my closing balance here. I must subtract my closing balance. All right. So let's take it slowly. I can say opening stock. I can say opening stock, which is 64.8. Then I'll say plus purchases, which is 894,000. It will give me my goods available for use, which is 958,800. I must then come and say minus closing stock. And once I subtract closing stock, then I will get the cost of raw materials issued to production. For me to get the closing stock, that is where now they tell me that I must use which method? The weighted average method. And for me to use the weighted average method, I know that I will draw a line, and then I will have my rands and I have my units at the bottom, whereby I will now say my opening stock. How much is my opening stock? It is 64,800 here, 64.8. In meters, it is 1,600. Then I'll say plus my purchases, again, 894,000. In meters, that is 18,800. Okay, so if I solve this, if I say 64.8 plus 89.4, that 894,000, that is what will give me 958,800. And if I say 1,600 plus 18,800, that's how I get my 20,400, which is this one here. So I'll divide these two now to get my average price. You still following me? Okay, so I'll get my average price. Let's punch in the calculators. How much is your average price? Thank you. I hear someone is saying 47. So your average price becomes 47 rands. Then you will now say, if my closing stock meters are 1,500 meters, and each meter is selling for 47, how much is the total? How much is the total? So, punch in your calculators, how much you get? 70,000 what? 500. 70.5. So you then come here, then you say minus 70,500. So it's your opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock, and that will give you your materials that were used in the factory, your direct material cost. How much are you getting? Say it again. 888,300. This would be method number one. This is what you did when you were calculating your cost of sales. Exactly. You remember, in the inventory valuation methods, you would calculate cost of sales. This is exactly what we have done here. The second method will be much easier now. With the second method, we would now say how much of the raw materials were issued to the factory. We want to know the raw materials issued to the factory. 18,900. This is what was issued to the factory. 18,900 what? Meters. Remember, it's meters. And then you multiply this by what? By your average price per meter. How much is your average price per meter? 47. And then how much you get now? You get your 888,300. So you still come back to the same figure. This would be method number 2. Okay, are we still together? I know someone is saying, Mr. Simbi, I have a shorter way to do method number 1. Okay, a quicker way of doing number 1 again. Do you know how to do number 1 quicker? Yes, you simply take your material available for use, which is the 958. You simply say 958,800 minus what? The closing stock, which is a 70.5. And then it will simply bring you back up again. So how many methods? Did I show you? 2. How many methods must you use in the exam? Only 1. You practice. You tell yourself, this one is the one that I understand better, so that when a question like this comes, at least you are prepared. Okay, can I move on to the next one? Thank you. Let's go on to the next question. The next question then says, that is, calculate the factory overhead cost for the year. Ooh, this is one of the common questions where you have to calculate the factory overhead cost. We are told in information B that the bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead as 600,000, which is what you see here. However, okay, something here is very important and you need to pay attention to this. However, he made the following errors. So here we have to correct errors now. We have to correct errors within the 600,000. There are errors that need to be corrected. Number 1, are you ready? Okay, let's go. Number 1, and it reads, the closing stock of factory indirect materials, which is 7,000, was omitted. Okay, I'm going to ask you a simple question. When we were calculating our cost of materials issued to the factory, what did we do with the closing stock? Did we add it or did we subtract it? Did we add it or we subtracted it? Thank you. We subtracted it. You remember that? We subtracted it. So what they're telling us is there's an amount, closing stock. We know already that once it's closing stock, it must be what? Subtracted. So they're telling us that there's an amount that must be subtracted which was omitted. Can I say it again? Okay, it's as simple as that. If we go back to the activity that we've just done, we had closing stock, and you remember what we did with closing stock. Even if you don't want us to go to the previous activity, when you calculate your cost of sales, what do you do with closing stock? Do you add it or you subtract it? What do? You subtract it. So the moment I hear that closing stock was omitted, it simply means an amount that was supposed to be subtracted was omitted. So I'm just going to subtract it. So I'm going to come here and then I'll say indirect materials 7,000 and we subtract it. Can I go to number 2? Okay, let's go to number 2. Number 2 then reads, the water and electricity cost for the year, which is 84,000. Okay, so water and electricity cost for the year, 84,000, was included in the factory overhead cost. This should have been allocated as follows. Okay, so it means that 84,000, it was incorrectly added. That 84,000, it was incorrectly added. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say water and electricity here. I know that in this 600,000, the total of the water and electricity was included. It was included in the 600,000. The best way, before we correct it, let's take it out. So I'm coming here and I'm going to say minus 84,000. I've taken it out. It's no longer in the 600,000. Minus 84,000. Now they tell me. So the keyword here, total, very important, total. Okay? And they say it should have been that we should have given 60%. That means I'll take the total, which is 84,000, and we get 60%. All right? Can I see calculators? What is 60% of 84,000? Yes, please punch it. You say 84,000 multiplied by 60 over 100. How much do you get? Okay, so the amount that must be recorded, which we're adding now, is how much? 50,400. This is the right amount that must be recorded. So on your calculator now, you are now saying you have an amount that we recorded first, which was a negative 84,000. A negative 84,000. Remember, we subtracted it out. That's why it's a minus. We took it out. That's why it's a minus. And then you are now recording the right amount that was supposed to be recorded, which is 50,400. Okay? How much do you get? You end up now with a negative 33,600. So you come here and then you say 33.6. This is how you're supposed to do this adjustment. Are you still with me? Okay. We're going to quickly move on to the next one. And the next one reads. Let's see what the next one says. This is number 3 now. Let's read number 3. It reads, the factory insurance of 45,000 was allocated according to the old ratio of 3:1:2. For factory, so the factory gets the 3, the sales gets the 1, and the office gets the 2. Okay, it's that simple. It should have been allocated according to floor space as follows. All right, so what we know is that factory insurance, so we had an amount that was the total insurance, and we calculated insurance and we got 45,000. But that is incorrect. Incorrect. And I've taught you so far, once there is an incorrect amount, what do? You take it out. Are you still with me? So that means I'm going to come here and I'm going to say insurance. All right? How much is that insurance? Let's take it out. 45,000. So we're taking it out. We take out the 45,000 insurance. It should have been allocated according to floor space as follows. Now, the one thing you need to do is to say, how much was the entire insurance before it was shared? How much was it? If I want to know how much it was, I'll then say, what we got for the factory is 3. But the total is 3 plus 1 plus 2. So the total is 6. So I want the total. I want the total, which is what? 6. I want the 6. But what I have is the one that is for the factory, which is 3. And the amount that went to the factory is 45,000. So it will be 6 over 3. This is what I want. This is what I have. And this is what I have. It will now give me what I want in rands. The amount for insurance before it was split incorrectly. How much was it? Calculators, please. Thank you. Say it again. 90,000. So it was 90,000. And then we did an incorrect calculation. Now, we are told the right calculation should be that the factory gets 1,500 square meters. Of what? Of the total. Of the total. How much is the total? Do you have your calculators? 1.5 plus 300 plus 600. How much is your total? Okay? I'm going to read the figures again. It is 1.5 plus 300 plus 600. You get what? 2,400 square meters. So, we will now say the factory is using 1,500 square meters of the 2,400 square meters. We multiply that by the amount total for the insurance, which is 90,000. How much do you then get? Okay, how much are you going to get there? Calculators, please. Say it loudly. You get 56,750. 56,750. So we will come here, then we will add now. We would add the correct amount. Remember, we took out the wrong amount. We come and we add the correct amount. The correct amount is how much? 56,750. 56,750. Okay, is it 750 or 250? Okay, let's do it together so that we have the correct figure. I hear someone saying 750, other one is saying 250. Okay, let's do it together. Let's see. What we want, this is what we want. We want 1,500. What do we have? We have 2,400. All right, and then we say multiply by 90,000. How much is that going to give us? Yes, so you were correct. 56,250. It's 56,250. So here it's 56,250. Thank you so much. Keep those calculators close. All right, so it's 56,250. Now we can close the bracket now. Let's now check. If we are to close here, what are we now saying? All right, let's clear our calculator. We're starting with the negative 45. So I'm coming here. It's minus 45,000. Minus 45 plus what? Plus 56,250. Plus 56,250. How much you get? A positive 11,250. A positive 11,250. Then we're going to get the total amount there. All right, please do that for me and tell me how much are you going to get. You get 570,650. 570,650. Thank you so much. Okay, so this was the next question, which wanted us to calculate the factory overhead cost for the year. What happened? We were given an incorrect factory overhead amount. We had to do some corrections. Very important that you know how to do these reverse calculations, how you have to take out the incorrect amount and then you add in the correct amount. Once you practice this kind of questions, when the exam comes, you will be able to answer such questions if ever they do come. Can I go on? Thank you. Let's go on to the next one. In the next one, we are now required to prepare the production cost statement. Okay, I like this one. I like this one. All right. So if you have a problem with this one, please make sure you listen carefully, attentively. Don't let anyone disturb you, for this is very important. Format, my dear learners, is of great importance. Format. You need to know your format. The format of this, the abridged statement of comprehensive income and the format of the production cost statement. Format is of great importance. Let's start. What is the first thing that we start with here? Direct material cost. Direct material cost. All right. How much is our direct material cost? 888,300. Where is this coming from? Oh, we calculated it. You remember the very first question? Yes, we calculated this one. All right, so we get our 888,300. So we're going to add this to. You have your calculators close? All right, tell me how much you're getting now. 1 million, say it again, 1,296,900. 1,296,900. What do we call this? We call it what? We call this our prime cost. We call this our prime cost. After prime cost, what do we bring? Say it again. What do we bring? Aha, we add what? Our factory overheads. We add our factory overheads. How much are the factory overheads? Do we have them? Yes, we just calculated them. You remember? Yes, we have our factory overheads. So how much are they? 570, 650. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say plus 570,650. Then I'm adding those two. You still following me? And then I'll get now my total cost of production. How much are they? 1,867,550. 1,867,550. What do we then do? We come then we say plus my work in process. Okay, work in process. This is unfinished goods that were being processed, but by the time we go to the end of the year, they were not fully finished. So we add a work in process at the beginning. It's 0. So let's add the 0 then. Then we're going to get the same figure, which is 1,867,550. This is the only amount that you get to subtract in your production cost statement. The only amount that you subtract. Everything else, you add. Did you hear me right? This is the only amount that you what? Subtract. What do you do with everything else? You add. So you come here, then you say minus work in process. This is your work in process at the end now. Do you see that one? Aha. So subtracting means what? Brackets. Remember, no bracket, you're not going to get a mark. Okay? So you put your brackets in. How much is that? 235,500. Are you still with me? All right. Then you now get your cost of production of finished goods. 1,867,550 minus 235,500. You get your 1,632,050. That's your cost of production of finished goods. Indeed, it is as simple as you see it. Okay, someone was asking me, Mr. Simbi, why is it seems so easy when we do it with you? Do you know why it seems easy? It's because I do this over and over and over again. You don't do the same. You just do class and then you go and sleep. That should not happen. Once you understand a concept, make sure you practice it. Make sure you work on it. Once you get hold of it, make sure you keep doing it until you become a master at it. So make sure, even tonight, before you sleep again, make sure you go over this question. Do it again so that you understand it better. Are we good? You make me a promise. Please do that. All right. Let's go on to the next question. The next question then says, okay, here's the next question. Calculate the cost of wastage of raw materials. Okay, so it means here, when we were doing our production, there was wastage on the raw materials. They would want us to calculate that particular wastage. Let's see if we can help. We are told here that where fabric issued from the storeroom to the factory, and remember we have touched this aspect already, and we have produced 15,000 units. We calculated this one, you remember, the 47 rand, and this is of great importance. Okay, so I'm going to try and see if I can show you two methods, just two. Okay, nothing more than two, and then you choose one. Are you ready? Let's go. If we are using 1.2 meters of fabric. That means I'll come here. It's 1.2 meters of fabric. That is what we're using to make one unit. That is one t-shirt. If we're to have a t-shirt, we need 1.2 meters of fabric. Now, how many t-shirts did we make? We made 15,000 t-shirts. Do you see where I'm coming from? One t-shirt needs 1.2 meters. How many t-shirts in total did we make? We made 15,000. So, how many meters of fabric must we have used? We must have used 18,000 meters. Be careful. Listen carefully to the words that I'm using. Let's do it again. One t-shirt needs 1.2 meters. Then we say, in total, how many t-shirts did we make? We made 15,000. That simply means, in total, the fabric that must have been used, is 18,000 meters. Now, let's go and see. How many meters did we actually use now? How many meters did we actually use? Raw materials issued to the factory. We actually used 18,900. That is what we actually used. When we should have used 18,000 meters, that simply means we used 900 meters more than what was necessary, because we should have used 18,000, but we ended up using 18.9. So we used more by how much? By 900. But these are meters. Here, the question wants us to calculate the what? The cost. That must be in rands now. Now we want to know, what is the value per meter according to us? Remember, we've done that calculation. There it is. It is 47 rand. So I'll come here, then I'll multiply this by 47 rand. That therefore means the cost of the material that was wasted becomes 42,300 rands. Are we good? Okay, thank you. I see some of you are smiling. Okay, that brings joy to my heart. At least I know you are getting me. So in this one, this was simple. We simply said one t-shirt needs 1.2 meters. How many t-shirts did we make? 15,000. How many meters must we have used? 18,000. And how many meters did we actually use? 18.9. So we subtract what we should have used. 900 is what we used above, what was necessary. We multiply that by 47. It gives us the wastage. You want method number 2? Okay, I see some of you are saying, okay, so we're going to label them. Can I label them? I'll label this method 1. Can I do method 2 here? Okay, thank you. So this becomes method number 2. Are you ready for method number 2? And once again, let me emphasize, in the exam, you don't do both methods. Okay, you remember what I say. You only use one method. You only use one method. Okay, let's try the other method. The other method is now saying, of the meters that were issued, which is how much? 18,900. These are the meters that were issued. Knowing that each t-shirt needs 1.2 meters, how many t-shirts must we have produced? We should have produced 15,750 t-shirts. We should have produced 15,750. But we only produced 15,000. So we say 15,750 minus the 15 that we actually produced. How many t-shirts were not produced because of this wastage? 750 t-shirts. So if 750 t-shirts were not produced because of the wastage, we understand that each t-shirt uses 1.2 meters. How many meters in total were wasted? That is 900 meters. We are back here again now. You see that? So if 900 meters were wasted, knowing that it is 47 rand per meter, how much is the total cost? 42,300. Second method. Okay? Yes, you get to choose here. You get to choose number one or number two, but you can't write both. Okay? Only one method. Okay? But in this class, I get to show you all the different ways of doing things. When you practice, then you say, I'm going to pick this one. Then you stick to that one that you understand better. Are we good? Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to go on now to the last part of our activity. This is the last part of our activity, and it reads, Mark is concerned about the increase of the cost of raw materials over the financial year. Provide two strategies that Mark can use to address the problem of wastage. Okay, so once there's wastage in the picture, what can we do to avoid that? Number one, improve the training of factory workers. Once employees are trained, they become efficient. When they're efficient, they reduce on wastage. The next one, use cutting patterns or cutting technology, or you can even use cutting machines. All right, so cutting patterns, very, very important. Others you would find they'll say use cutting stencils. Okay, you can use material of a better quality. Once you use material of a better quality, it becomes easy even as you do your cutting. Regular servicing or maintenance of machines, very important as well, that you do regular servicing and maintenance of your machines. Use cut-offs effectively for related products such as caps or hoodies. In other words, that material which has been cut off, don't throw it away. Put it to good use. You can make caps, you can make hoodies, even socks if possible. We just say make use of those cut-off material. Don't throw it away. All right? And then lastly, pay incentives. We're talking about bonuses here for minimizing wastage. In other words, if employees minimize wastage, then you pay them incentives. So you use the incentive as a motivation to cut on wastage. All right? So you pay incentives or bonuses for minimizing wastage. We are going to start on activity 2, but we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. A quick 2-minute break, and then I'll see you back here in exactly 2 minutes. Welcome back, dear learners. Before the ad break, we did some interesting calculations. Remember, we even prepared a production cost statement. That was very exciting. So now I have activity 2 here with me. Okay, it's still from the very same paper. Let's hear what activity 2 is all about. The business manufactures light bulbs. Richard Smith, the CEO, intended to reduce the production cost of Orion bulbs due to technological changes and introduce new standard bulbs by setting up a new factory. Okay, so we're going to do a calculation to confirm the break-even point, and then we're going to answer these questions as well. Okay, you ready? Let's go. So the first one is, do a calculation to confirm that the break-even point of 149,145 for Orion bulbs is correct. We understand that the easiest way, I know there are several other ways of calculating break-even point. There are several other ways. But one of the easiest ways is to simply say your total fixed cost over your contribution per unit. Contribution per unit being selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say my total fixed cost is 2,982,900, and we divide this by the selling price per unit, which is 46 minus the variable cost per unit. How much is your variable cost per unit? 26 minus 26. All right. In other words, you're going to end up with your 2,982,900 divided by 20, which will give you your break-even point. As I said earlier on, I am aware of several other methods, but for this class, I'll stick to this method alone. All right? There are several other methods that we can use to prove this break-even point. But for this class, I'll stick to the total fixed cost over the contribution per unit. And then it gives us our break-even point, which is 149,145. Remember, we are confirming this break-even point here. It's just a different way that the examiner comes and asks us to show a calculation for the break-even point. So they can say calculate break-even point or do a calculation to confirm. So it's one and the same thing. Can I go on to the next one? All right. Identify and explain two cost items with figures that may have contributed to the increase in the cost of production per unit. All right. So they're saying the cost of production per unit has increased. All right. The cost of production per unit has increased. Remember, it was 28. Now it's 36. Now they are saying, identify two cost items which might have led to this. And then they say, provide a reason in each case. Note. Once the examiner says note, you have to take note of it. Okay? So he says, note that the current inflation rate is 7%. In the previous week, we did an activity that almost was similar to this, whereby they also give you the inflation rate. Okay? So we want to look for a cost item that might have caused such an increase. Okay, let's start. Where do we look first? Where do we look? We're looking. Okay, let's check this direct labor. Okay, let's check that direct labor. So we're going to first check our direct labor cost. What has happened to our direct labor cost? You can see here that it was 6.70 Rand. Now it's 11 Rand. It has increased to 11 Rand 20. Okay, so it has increased to 11 Rand 20. So we can now say that there is an increase here from 6 rand 70 to 11 rand 20. Okay, so it has increased from, you can say it has increased from 6 rand 70 to 11 rand 20. That is one point. Okay, and then we can also see that it has increased by how much? By how much? By how much? In other words, you are now saying 11 rand 20 minus 6 rand 70. How much is the difference? Calculators, guys. 4 rand 50. So it has increased by 4 rand 50. By 4 rand 50. All right. Let's see. By what percentage has it increased by? You simply say, remember when you calculate the percentage increase, you say the old minus the new, divide by the old, multiply by 100 over 1. Old, how much was the old? 6 rand 70. How much is the new? 11 rand 20. Divide everything by the old, 6 rand 70. You multiply by 100 over 1. How much do you get? Say it again. You get 67.2%. 67.2%. I heard someone was saying 67.2 what. Okay, it's fine. 67.2%. So we can now safely comment and we can say our direct labor cost has increased from 6 rand 70 to 11 rand 20. In other words, it has increased by 4 rand 50, or we can say it has increased by 67.2%. This is an abnormal increase considering that our inflation rate is 7%. Can I go on to the next one? The next one then is, in each case, we must provide a reason. Okay, why would our direct labor cost increase? Poor supervision. Number 2, there is excessive overtime that would lead to such an increase in our direct labor cost. Okay, poor supervision and excessive overtime. Can I move on to the next one? Thank you. Let's go on to the next one. And it says, identify and explain 2 cost items. Is still the same one. So far we have identified direct labor cost. So now we want another one. All right, let's look. Let's try here our factory overhead cost. Let's see. How much was it initially? It was, so factory overhead cost. All right, our factory overhead cost. How much was it initially? It was 11 rand 60. It was 11 rand 64 actually. Thank you. 11 rand 64. Now it has increased to how much? It has increased to 14 rand 20. You can see this one here. It has increased to 14 rand 20. By how much has it increased by? By how much? You're getting the difference there. Say it again. 2 rand 56. Thank you. It has increased by 2 rand 56. Percentage? Let's calculate percentage. All right. Someone was saying, Mr. Simbi, repeat the formula again. I'm going to do that for you. Old minus new. Divide by old. Multiply by 100 over 1. Let's do it together. Old 2022. 11 rand 64. 11 rand 64 is the old. Minus the new. 14 rand 20. Divided by the old. 11 rand 64. Multiply by 100 over 1. How much you get? 22%. Thank you. You get 22%. So we can now say our factory overhead cost per unit has increased from 11 rand 64 to 14 rand 20. Or we can say my factory overhead cost has increased by 2 rand 56. Or you can say my factory overhead cost has increased by 22%. That's exorbitant. That's a huge increase considering the inflation rate is at 7%. All right. What could have caused this? Number 1, diseconomies of scale. Okay, the disadvantages of buying in large scale: drop in production while the factory overhead cost remains constant. Okay, when the units produced decrease, yet the factory overhead cost remains constant because it is a fixed cost. Therefore, you're going to end up with an increase in cost per unit. Okay, can I move on to the next aspect then? It then reads, explain whether the new starlet bulbs were a good idea or not. Provide 2 points, chord figures. Here are the starlet bulbs. Were they a good point? Okay, let's go. Number one, you will see that we have more sales revenue of 15.3 million of starlet, which exceeds the sale of Orion bulbs by 104%. All right, so you can see here, these are the total sales. If I would go back to the other bulb, you would see that it is exceeding it by 7,802,000. That is 104%. Okay, so that is the first point to say it was a good idea. The next one, the starlet bulbs are new technology. Therefore, when it's new technology, they become popular. And you can see here, they have sold more than, that is 225,000 units as compared to the 163, even though these are expensive bulbs, because remember, they're selling at 68 rands. And then the last point is more profit can be made, all right, and than on the Orion bulbs. So with these ones, we tend to make more profit than the Orion bulbs. Okay, I'm going to quickly rush to activity 3. And then I'm going to see if we can be able to finish activity 3 before we end today's class. All right, let's start activity 3, which is the Gauteng prelim for the year 2023. Okay, let's go. And then here's the information that we're provided in this question. All right, and then here's more information for this question, and there is more information. Here is the last part, and we'll begin now with our calculations. Let's see what we're going to do here first. Calculate the direct labor cost. So we're given again another incorrect total that is before corrections. Are you ready? Let's go. Number one, it says the bookkeeper calculated the direct labor cost. Okay. However, he made the following errors which must be adjusted. Okay. So we have the direct labor cost of 1,132,030, but it is a wrong figure because there were errors that were done, and we need to correct these errors. Error number one, the salesperson, once they say salesperson, I know this is a cost that must go to selling and distribution. You remember? Aha. All right. Salesperson's commission of 8,575 was captured as a direct labor cost. We must take it out. So we're going to come here. Then we say salesperson's commission. Okay. So we're going to take out the salesperson's commission. How much is that commission? 8,575. So we're coming here to take 8,575 out. Are you good? Okay, let's go on to the next one. It says he captured 225 hours of overtime for production staff using the office staff overtime rate. All right. So there is production staff overtime. All right. So here I'm just going to say overtime. 225 hours of overtime were captured using the staff, the office staff. Here's the office staff. All right, here's the thing. The office staff uses a rate which is 295. So if we come here and we say the 225 hours multiply by 295, that would give us, let's do it together. If we'd come and would say the 225 hours which were captured, we multiply by the office staff. The office staff rate is 295. It would mean that the amount that was recorded was 66,375. 66,375. Okay, 66,375. Yet you were supposed to capture this 225 hours using the production staff, which is 320. You were supposed to use 320, not 295. So if you use this 320, how much is it going to be? 225 hours. Multiply that by the correct rate, which is 320. That would mean you get 72,000. 72,000. So here's the simple thing now. He has recorded 66,375. Yet he's supposed to record 72,000. Okay? So if you get the difference between the two figures, which is 72,000 minus the 66,375, you would then get 5,625. In other words, we have recorded this instead of this. So in order for us to get to that, you come here and you say 5,625. In other words, you are simply saying 72,000, which was supposed to be recorded, but we have recorded 66,375. Therefore, we come and we add the difference. Did you get me? Okay, there is another way. You want me to show you the other way? Quickly then. All right, we would say the 320, the rate that we're supposed to use, minus the rate that was used. That means the difference between the two rates is 25. We recorded 25 less in terms of the rate. Then we multiply it by your 225 hours. You multiply by 225 hours. You still get the 5,625. We good? All right. And then let's quickly go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next one. And it reads 10% of the water. So now we're in the factory overhead cost. We're in the factory overhead cost. All right. It says here, the bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead cost as 356,310. However, the following adjustments must still be taken into account. Let's take the adjustments into account. Let's begin. Number one, 10% of the water and electricity was used by the office. The factory uses the rest. All right. So here we have water and electricity. All right. We understand that 10% of the water and electricity was used by the office, and the factory will use the rest. So we'd come here and then we would say, here I have my water and electricity. I open my bracket. And then how much do I have? I have my water and electricity, which is 110,500. 110,500. I know that 10% goes to the office. How much then goes to the factory? The rest. So it's 100 minus 10. 100 minus 10. That means the factory is going to use what? 90. So I'm going to come here. My factory is going to use the 90%. 90 over 100. And then I will get 99,420. 450. 99,450. Are you still with me? Okay, let's quickly move on to the next one. The next one then says rent. So I know here I'm going to say rent. Listen to this one now. Rent was paid until 31 January. We understand that this financial year ends on the 28th of February. So it means if I take this rent, this is for 11 months. For 11 months. So I'm going to say 133,100 is for 11 months. How much is it going to be per month? Calculators, please. 12,100 per month. So if I have 133,100 for 11 months, when I do my cost accounting, I know it is for the financial period. That's 12 months. So I'm going to come and add the 12,100. And it will give me how much? 145,200. It will give me 145.2. Now, I now know that this 145.2 is the rent for 12 months. Okay? So first, I to adjust this adjustment of the accrued rent amount. Then I'll come and now say, on my rent, I have 145,200. Then the floor space of the premises is 1,500 square meters. So it simply means my total here is 1,500. So I want to know how much is my factory. How do I get that? I say 1.5 minus 450 minus another 450 again. How much is the factory going to be then? It's going to be 600 square meters. So the factory is 600 square meters. So I know that I want the 600, but what I have is the total, which is how much? 1,500 square meters. You good? All right, thank you. How much is that going to give us? That will give you 58,080. 58,080. Did you see what I did? I made sure first I adjust for the rent that is still owing, the 1 month. So I added the 1 month, which is your 12.1, before I could do the floor space. You still with me? What if the rent was prepaid? You were supposed to subtract the 1 month before you do the floor space calculations. Are you still with me? Okay, thank you. Let's quickly go on to the next one. Quickly. All right, let's see if we can start the next one. There is the next one. Oh, what does it say? It says an amount of 8,400 for insurance. Remember, we're continuing with the question. You can see on your worksheet, it's a continuation, right? An amount of 8.4 for insurance was accurately transferred to the administration cost account. Insurance is allocated in the ratio 3:2:1 among the factory, the administration, and the sales department. So I know here I must record my insurance. Okay? I must record my insurance. I know that 8.4 is recorded correctly to the admin. Okay? But my ratio is 3:2:1. In other words, the factory gets 3. The admin gets 2. You still with me? The sales gets 1. The admin also has the amount in rands. Amount for insurance was transferred to the admin. So in rands, 8.4 here. The UK method, what you want over what you have. What do you want here? So we come here, then we say insurance. We want the amount that goes to the factory. Okay? We know. It's very easy. You could have got the total first, then you come back. But what do you want? You want 3. So, you want 3. The factory. You want 3. That is the factory. Don't complicate it. You want what? 3, which is for the factory. What do you have? Your have must have how many values? 2 values. What do you have? You have that mean, which is what? 2. So it's 3 over 2. Multiply this by what you have, which is how much? 8,400. You following me? Okay. Punch that in your calculator. How much are you going to get? Say it again. 12,600. Beautiful. Beautiful. I know you could have got back to the original amount. And then, easy, quicker way. Quicker way? Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next one. The next one then says, only 80% of indirect materials was used. So, I'm coming here to say indirect materials. I'm coming to say indirect materials. Okay, so only 80% of the indirect materials was used. So it simply means we bought indirect materials, or the indirect materials that were available for use is 100%. We don't know the amount in rands. And then 80% was used. 80% was used. In rands, we don't know. This is the used. 20% is on hand, left. 20% on hand, left. 20%. In rands, we know 11.4. In the factory overhead balance, we record what was used. So we come again. What do you want? That's always the question. What do you want? In this case, what do you want? 100? Why do you have to go to 100? You want 80. Do you want 80? Yes, we want 80. So we say, we want 80. What do you have? You have 20. Because remember, you have must have how many? 2 values. You have must have 2 values. So it's 80 over 20. Multiply that by your 11,400. Close the bracket. Okay? Quickly now. How much you get? Say it again. 45,600. You still with me? Okay. Then I'm going to do the last one, but I'm going to bring it here. The last one. It says, depreciation on factory equipment was correctly updated on the fixed asset register, but not recorded on the overheads note. Our accumulated depreciation at the beginning was 242,500. We used the assets during the year. They lost value due to what? Depreciation. And we ended up with 412,500. So we want the depreciation. If I were to open a T account, I'll take you back to grade 11. You remember, accumulated depreciation. All right? It increases on the credit and it decreases on the debit. So we have a balance brought down. How much is that? 242,500. Then here we bring the depreciation for the year. We don't know that. And then we know that at the end of the year, it's now 412,500. So it comes here as balance brought down 412,500. But we know it has to be balance carried down 412,500. That means here it's 412,500. Here it's what? 412,500. So 412,500 minus that. Therefore, your depreciation becomes how much? I want the difference between the two. 412,500 minus that one. It gave me 170,000. This is what we were looking for. Someone is saying, but Mr. Simbi, why didn't you just come and say depreciation and then open bracket and say 412,500 minus 242,500, and then your depreciation was just going to be 170,000. That is what we should have done. But I thought, let me remind you of what you've done in the past. Accumulated depreciation. An increase in accumulated depreciation is as a result of depreciation for the year. So once you see your accumulated going up, it's because there was depreciation during the year. That's what it means. Yes, okay. So we got that one. Okay, so you're going to add these figures. Let's add them up quickly. All right, and then we get the total. Let's add them up, and then we get the total. Let's add them up. Don't forget to add the 356, 310. So it's 356, 310 plus 170 plus 12.6, and then the 45,600. All right, so you add those ones up. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next activity. Here's the next activity now. In this one, they want us to complete the production cost statement, but they brought some area that was shaded. The moment you see an area that is shaded, do not write in it. It's not for you. Yes, tell your friends, the shaded area is not for you. Don't write in the shaded area. You waste time that you'll be using to write in the unshaded area. So make sure you write in the unshaded area. The gray area, not yours. Okay, so we're going to come here. Then we're going to say, we were given now the total manufacturing cost. And we're going to come and say, work in process at the beginning. Remember, we add. This is the only one we subtract. You remember now. So I'm coming here to now say, plus 260, work in process at the beginning, plus 260,000. Okay, so it's going to be 3,971,120 plus 260. Give me a figure. How much do you get? Okay, 4 million. Say it again. 4,231,120 minus work in process at the end. Ooh, it's not given. Does that complicate our lives? No. There should be a way around. If you go back to last week's classes, I showed you other ways of doing this. In this case, they told us that 23,750 torches were produced at a unit cost of 172. So it means I'm going to come here and I'm going to say 23,750. Multiply that by 172. How much is that going to give you? 4,085,000. 4,085,000. So you now say 4,231,120 minus 4,085,000. That will give you now your work in process at the end. How much is that? 146,000. Say it again. 146,120. Then your production cost statement is complete. Yes, as simple as that. It's as simple as that. No need to complicate things. It is this simple. I have the last activity for the day. All right, so we're going to quickly rush through it because we're slightly behind time. All right, can I start? Activity 4. You ready? Okay, thank you. Let's go. Activity 4 is from the Gauteng prelim for the year 2023. And again, it's a break-even question. So we're going to do calculations and then we're going to analyze the figures. Okay, here is the information, but let's quickly jump on to the first calculation. There it is. It says, okay, identify the production cost. Okay, so that is the first one. All right, identify the production cost that caused the biggest problem in making the handbags. Explain and quote figures to support your answer. So here they're saying the one that caused the biggest problem. In the previous paper, they were saying the one that caused a major concern. So it depends on how the examiner is going to bring it. But they just want you to identify a problematic area and then you give them advice on how to go about that particular challenge. Okay, let's begin then. We're looking. Maybe let's look again at what we did last time. Let's look around direct labor cost. Okay, which one are we looking at? We are looking at the making of handbags. So we are in the handbags here. Okay, so we say direct labor cost, right? Let's look at our direct labor cost. In 2022, it was 60 rand per unit. Okay, in 2023, 75. Ooh, so you remember what we said earlier on. So we'd say our direct labor cost, we know that it has increased, isn't it? it has increased from, remember it was 60 Rand per unit to 75 Rand per unit. Okay, to 75 Rand per unit. Okay, someone is saying, let us comment using by. So if it is by, would say it is increased by how much? From 75, from 60 to 75. That is by how much? If we can get that one in the figures, that is, if you say 75 by 60, by how much is that? Okay, so we're gonna say 75 minus 60, that is by 15. Okay, are we correct? Yes, by 15. Percentage, remember, still the same thing. Old, how much is the old one? 60 minus new, how much is the new? 75. That's going to give you 15. Divide it by the old, 60. Multiply by 100 over 1. That gives you 25%. So we can then comment and say, it has increased from 60 to 75. It is increased by 15 Rand, or it has increased by 25%. Okay, I'm going to quickly move on to the next one. Let's go on to the next one. Give two possible practical solutions for Botswana manufacturers. Okay, if there's an increase in direct labor, let's give them advice. Number one, train our workers to be more efficiently. Okay, so the moment we have such a challenge, we need to train our employees to be more efficient. Okay, number two, we need to ensure that our workers work less overtime, and we need to control their working hours. Okay, so we need to ensure that they work less overtime and we can control their working hours. The next one, limit increase for production wages to inflation. You remember in the other question, with inflation, which was what? 7%. You remember? So it depends with the question that you are given by the examiner. So here we need to ensure that we don't increase our cost by, that is the direct labor, by 25%. Yet the inflation rate is at 7%. Okay, so we have to ensure that we increase in relation to the inflation. So we have to limit it to the increase in inflation as well. So increase mechanization, or we need to automate. In other words, there are certain tasks, certain jobs that we can use machines, which may be cheaper as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Refer to the accountant's calculations of variable cost per unit for cell phones. Okay, for cell phone sling bags. So we are here on the cell phone bags here. Give two reasons for the decrease in the direct material cost. Okay, so we need to give two reasons for the decrease in direct material cost. Remember, it was 23, now it's 20. What do you think has happened that can lead to such a decrease? Number one, they found a cheaper supplier. That is a reason. Number two, they found a local supplier for direct material, saying money on carriage or customs or import duties has been saved. So now they're buying locally, no longer importing the goods. So there's no import duty, customs duty, and the cost of transportation because they're buying locally. And it could be that they have negotiated a discount for buying in bulk. That would have led to such a decrease. The next one, workers were properly trained. Remember, once employees are trained, we minimize on wastage. And it could be that we're buying better quality materials, which therefore would minimize the wastage of material. Better quality minimizes on wastage as well. Okay. Lastly, it could be that there is supervision. Okay, there's better supervision and control when issuing materials to to the workers, and there is efficiency on the production floor. All right, I'm going to go to the next calculation. Do a calculation to prove that the break-even point for cell phones is in fact the correct. Okay, so it's similar to the one we've done, but let's do it. Remember, one method that I'm doing with you, total fixed cost over contribution per unit. Let's see how much is our total fixed cost. Which one are we doing? Cell phone sling bags. So we're here. How much is our total fixed cost? 2.5 million. This one here. It is 2.5 million over the selling price per unit. How much is that? 90 minus variable cost per unit, 41. You still with me? All right. So in other words, if you break it down, it will be 2.5 million divided by 49, and then it would give you that 51,021 units. Can I quickly go? Okay, I know after break-even calculation, there will be a question that will ask me to comment on the figures that would have been calculated. Let's see if that is the case. Comment on the production levels. You hear that? For cell phone sling bags, should Botswana manufacturers be satisfied with the production level achieved in 2023 compared to 2022? Quote figures to support your answer. Okay, I'm going to give you some points. The first point is that in 2022, the company made a profit on, okay, so let's see, how did we get that profit? To get the profit, you say the number of units produced and sold is 60,000. The break-even point is 52. So the difference between these two figures is 7,368. Once you produce and sell units above the break-even point, you are making a profit. All right? So in 2022, the company made a profit on 7,368 units. But in 2023, we want to see how much profit the company is making. So you would come and say 70,000 minus 51,000. So we get the difference between those two. And then you get 18,979. That is the difference now. So they have made a profit on 18,979. Should they be satisfied? In this case, we have made profit on more units than the previous year. Should the company be satisfied? Definitely yes. They should be satisfied because we've made profit on more units than in the previous year. Okay. All right. Let me bring another point. Botswana made more profit in 2023 since the level of production of 70,000 units exceeded the break-even point. So we are now saying here, so the first point here, it was profit versus profit. That is how we commented in the first one. Profit versus profit. And then we come here, we now say, in 2023, the production was 70,000, which exceeds the break-even point of 51,021, as compared to 2022, when the business only produced what? 60,000. So here you had production versus production, and then in the same sentence, you also had break-even. You also had break-even versus break-even. So production for 2022, which is 60,000, against production for 2023, which is 70,000. You can see that one. And then the profits, which is for the break-even point for 2022, which is 52,000, against the 2023 break-even, which is 51,000. You have to understand that when break-even goes down, that is good for business. That means the business is able to achieve its break-even point earlier. Therefore, the excess units becomes profit. All right. So in this case, in 2023, the business is achieving its break-even at 51,021, which is earlier than in the previous year where they were achieving at 52,632. So in this paragraph, we're explaining that in 2023, we achieved more units than in 2022, and we still achieved break-even point earlier than in 2022. So there is more profit in 2023. And then the next point that I'll discuss is that in 2022, Botswana produced 60,000, and in 2023, they have made 70,000 units. So this one is simply your production versus production. Production for the year 2022 versus production for the year 2023. That in 2023, we have produced 70,000, which is more than what we produced in 2022, which is 60,000 units. Okay, we have come to the end of today's class. It's been a pleasure. It is always a joy to have you in my class. All right, you are such a wonderful group. And next week, Thursday, remember, we are having class exactly at 2. The class starts. This is the final preparation for the June exam. You are aware that on Friday, which is the 24th, you're writing your paper 1. So on Thursday, we're going to use that time to prepare to do the last preparation for the June exam, paper 1, for the 24th of May. I hope to see you in that class. But in the meantime, this is what you need to do for me. You need to ensure that you go back to your paper 1 topics. Make sure that you practice your statement of comprehensive income, your calculation of correct net profit. Make sure that you do a statement of financial position. You do all your notes. Ensure that you do a cash flow statement. Ensure that you revisit your analysis and interpretation of financial statements. Don't forget your corporate governance, your auditing. Need I remind you to also touch on major shareholding. It is very important, dear learners, that we put everything in us as we prepare for this June exam. Remember, once you can dream it, you can have it. Once you can imagine it, then it is only left for you to realize it. I know you have the desire. I know you want to do well. Put in the hours. Put in the time. Practice. Work. In other languages, they say, burn the midnight oil. Do that. Consult with your teacher where you have problems. But you need to put in the effort. Until next time, I wish you happy studying and see you on Thursday exactly at 2 p.m. It is goodbye.